to Millennium Daily News. This is Ifat Fatima with top stories. Trump accuses US spy agencies of Nazi practices over phony Russia this year. Trump names son-in-law senior White House advisor. Obama says goodbye in last presidential speech. Jerusalem truck attacker was IS supporter, Netanyahu. Take steps against militancy, Prime Ministers ask Coast Guard. And Messi free kick magic sends Barca into cup quarters. Those were the headlines, now the detail. President-elect Donald Trump escalated a fight with US spy agencies just 9 days before he takes over their command as president and accused them of practices reminiscent of Nazi Germany. The Republicans said leaks from the intelligence community led to some US media outlets reporting unsubstantiated claims that he was caught in a compromising position in Russia. Trump acknowledged for the first time that Russia likely hacked the Democratic National Committee and the emails of top Democrats during the 2016 presidential election. I think it was Russia, he said, pointing out that other countries were also hacking the United States. Donald Trump named son-in-law Jared Kushner as senior White House advisor, rewarding the man widely credited the brains behind his election but courting serious legal and ethical concerns. The baby-faced real estate developer and magazine publisher, who is 36, will be the youngest top member of the administration, working closely with Chief of Staff Reince Priebus and Chief Strategist Steve Bannon. The appointment was announced 2 days before Trump is set to give his first news conference since the November election, in which he will detail plans for his own company and potential conflicts of interest while in the White House. The U.S. Senate took a first concrete step toward dismantling Obamacare, voting to construct key committees to draft legislation repealing President Barack Obama's signature health insurance program. The vote was 51-48. The resolution now goes to the House of Representatives, which is expected to vote on it this week. Scrapping Obamacare is a top priority for the Republican majorities in both chambers and Republican President-elect Donald Trump. Republicans have said that the process of repealing Obamacare could take months and developing a replacement plan could take longer, but they are under pressure from Trump to act fast. He said on Wednesday that the repeal and replacement should happen essentially simultaneously. Barack Obama closes the book on his presidency with a farewell speech in Chicago that will try to lift supporters shaken by Donald Trump's election. Obama's last trip on Air Force One is a pilgrimage to his adoptive hometown, where he will address a sellout crowd not far from where he delivered his victory speech 8 years ago. I first came to Chicago when I was in my early 20s, still trying to figure out who I was, still searching for a purpose to my life, Obama is expected to tell Chicagoans, according to advanced excerpts of his speech. This is where I learned that change only happens when ordinary people get involved, get engaged, and come together to demand it. After 8 years as your president, I still believe that diehard fans, many African Americans, have braved Chicago's frigid winter to collect free tickets, which now sell for upwards of $1,000 a piece off Craigslist. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said a Palestinian who rammed a truck into a group of soldiers and killed 4 of them as a supporter of the Islamic State group. 15 people were also injured in the attack. The driver was also killed at the location overlooking holy sites in the old cities such as the Dome of the Rock and providing one of the most spectacular views of Jerusalem. Chaos broke out at the scene when the truck plowed through the crowd. with hundreds of soldiers having arrived there as part of a tour for troops about the history of Jerusalem. Israel's military said one of its soldiers fired on the attacker and distributed video of him saying he shot after releasing it was not an accident. Viewers, now Millennium News on Bangladesh topic. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina asked the Bangladesh Coast Guard to take due steps against militancy in the areas under their jurisdiction alongside other law enforcement agencies. Bangladesh is not a militant state and we have adopted a zero-tolerance policy to curb militancy, she said after commissioning two ships for Bangladesh Coast Guard named CGS Syed Nazrul and CGS Tajuddin at the Coast Guard berth in Patenga. The Prime Minister also said Bangladesh Coast Guard has now become a symbol of confidence and security among the people of this coastal region due to the force personnel's honesty, dutifulness, sincere efforts and efficiency. The International Crimes Tribunal 1 expressed its discontent over continuing trial proceedings against deceased person and asked to investigate to find out the culprits behind the blunder. Trial cannot be continued against a deceased as it is illegal. The tribunal has asked the prosecution to look into the matter to find out culprits, said senior prosecutor Syed Haider Ali. A private TV channel recently aired a report saying the trial of crimes against humanity is going on against Mohammad Wazuddin of Mymensingh, terming him as absconded. The tribunal on December 11, 2016 framed 5 charges of crimes against humanity against Wazuddin and his partner in crimes Riazuddin Fakir. But according to that TV report, Wazuddin actually died on May 7, 2016, 7 months before the incident. Bangladesh Awami League President and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina said her party does not want any controversy over elections in the figure as it wants the party that will be voted by people to govern the country. Awami League is respectful of the country's constitution and existing laws. Awami League has full confidence and trust in the deep wisdom and forethought of the Honorable President's long political career. President's Press Secretary Joinal Abidin quoted the Awami League chief as saying, "The party will extend full support to any judicious step to be taken by the President for constituting the Election Commission," she added. Joinal Abidin briefed reporters after a meeting between President Abdul Hamid and an Awami League delegation at the Darbar Hall of Bangabhavan over the formation of the new EC. Viewers, now Millennium Business News. US President-elect Donald Trump's plans to slash taxes could threaten the country's AAA credit rating over the medium term, the head of EMEA Sovereign Ratings at the fifth agency said. "We do see increasing medium-term pressures," ED Parker said at the agency's annual Credit Outlook conference in London. Even before elections, the US had the highest level of government debt of any AAA country. If we add on top of that Trump's plans to cut taxes by $6.2 trillion over the next 10 years, that could add around 33% to US government debt, he added. Trump will take offense on Jan 20, but some of his promised policy changes have already sparked market and economics concern, including tax cuts, a repeal of the healthcare reform enacted under President Barack Obama, and a threat to slap tariffs on companies moving jobs overseas. Volkswagen investors demanded reforms and questioned executives' bonuses after the carmaker admitted to criminal offenses in rigging U.S. emissions tests, and U.S. prosecutors indicted 6 current and former managers over the scandal. The German company agreed to pay $4.3 million in civil and criminal fines in a settlement with the U.S. Department of Justice, the largest ever U.S. penalty heaped on an automaker. Volkswagen admitted about 40 employees at its VW and Audi brands deleted thousands of documents in an effort to hide from U.S. authorities the systematic use of so-called defeat devices to rig diesel emissions tests, a scale of wrongdoing that led some investors to call for deep reforms. Industries across the Eurozone cracked up output in November, and Germany ended the year with its strongest growth in 5 years, data showed recently, pointing to an economic spurt that may be arriving earlier than some ECB policymakers expect. Eurozone industrial output in the 90s country currency bloc surged 1.5% on the month and 3.2% year-on-year as firms stepped up production before Christmas. Both figures were far better than expected. That coupled with a surprisingly large increase in Italian industrial production also reported and similarly robust numbers earlier this month from France. The newly appointed Islami Bank Bangladesh Limited chairman Arastu Khan assured the officials and employees of the bank that they can perform their duties more smoothly than before. I have assured the IBBL officials and employees that we have no intention to dismiss or sack anyone from this bank, he told the journalists emerging from a meeting with Finance Minister A.M. Mohit at Secretariat. But he also said no political inclination would be allowed as all working in this bank must be professional. Anyone can vote for any party, but it must not reflect in their professional place, he added. Country's first ever exposition on tea titled Bangladesh Tea Expo 2017 has kicked off at the International Convention City Bosundhara in Dhaka. After showcasing the history, culture and heritage of Bangladeshi tea industry, the 3-day event, which is being hosted by the Bangladesh Tea Board, will end on 14 January. Finance Minister Abul Mal Abdul Muhit inaugurated the expo at Hall 2 of ICCB as the chief guest, while Commerce Minister Tofail Ahmed and State Minister for Finance and Planning M. A. Mannan were present as special guests. In the 3-day-long event, workers from the tea gardens in Bandarban, Dinajpur and Panchgarh are set to present their culture. The main objective of the expo is to promote Bangladeshi tea both at home and abroad. Viewers, now the Millennium Science and Technology News. President-elect Donald Trump's transition team has been actively considering ways to revamp a temporary visa program used to bring foreign workers to the United States to fill high-skilled jobs, according to sources familiar with the discussions. Possibilities for reforming the distribution of H-1B visas, which are used largely by the technological industry, were discussed at a meeting last month with chief executives of technological companies at Trump Tower, said two sources who asked not to be named because they were not authorized to talk about the closed-door talks. Trump's senior policy advisor Stephen Miller proposed scrapping the existing lottery system used to award the visas. A possible replacement system would favor visa petitions for jobs that pay the high salaries, according to the sources. Japanese scientists say that silicon is likely the misery element in the Earth's inner core, claiming progress on solving one of the planet's deepest secrets. Consensus has long been that the center of the planet is composed of about 85% iron and 10% nickel, with sulfur, oxygen and silicon prime candidates for the other 5%. But geophysicist Izzy Ohtani at Tokyo University in northern Japan and his research team suggest that silicon is the most likely candidate. Ohtani's team conducted experiments on iron-nickel alloys mixed with silicon, subjecting them in the lab to the kinds of high temperatures and pressure found in the inner core. Seismic data, namely sound velocity or seismic waves, obtained for the inner core. Our latest experiments suggest that the remaining 5% of the inner core is composed mostly of silicon, Ohtani told AFP. Babies born prematurely are prone to problems later in life. They are more likely to develop autism or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and more likely to struggle in school. A new study suggests that the underlying neurological issue may begin in the womb. It's among the first to investigate brain activity in human fetus, published on January 9. The discoveries provide the first direct evidence of altered brain function in fetus that go on to be born prematurely, and they might ultimately point to ways to remediate or even prevent such early injuries. Developmental neuroscientist Moria Thomason of Wayne State University School of Medicine in Detroit, Michigan, and colleagues report a difference in how certain brain regions communicate with each other in fetuses that were later born prematurely compared with fetuses that were carried to term, and study reports. Viewers, now Millennium Sports News. Hashim Amla and G.P. Duminy put on a brisk unbeaten third wicket stand of 148 to guide South Africa to 193 for 2 wickets at tea on day 1 of the third and final test against Sri Lanka at the Wanderers. Out of form, Amla, playing his 100th test, was dropped on 5 just before lunch and rode the piece of luck to move on to 50 not out, leaving Duminy to play the role of enforcer with an unbeaten 87. Having resumed after lunch with the score on 79, the pair upped the tempo and scored 114 runs in the session at close to 4 runs and over as the Sri Lankan bowlers wilted on a wicket with plenty of movement and bounce, and under overcast skies. It is the first time that Amla has passed 50 in 11 test innings, ending a rich run of form for 33-year-old. Lionel Messi's third goal from a free kick is as many games this year secured Barcelona's place in the quarter-finals of the Copa del Rey as the holders beat Athletic Bilbao 3-1 to edge through 4-3 on aggregate. Luis Suarez's 100th Barca goal. Neymar's penalty cancelled out Athletic's 2-1 first leg lead, but Enric Sabort's header 6 minutes into the second half had the tie headed for extra time. However, just as in the first leg and in a 1-1 draw and Villarreal on Sunday, Messi rode to Barca's rescue with another exquisite free kick that clipped the inside of the post on its way past Gorka Irozos. There is a reason why Messi is the best in the world, Suarez told Barca TV. He surprises you with something beautiful in every game. Barca were under huge pressure to deliver their first win of the year as the slip-up at Villarreal left them 5 points adrift of Real Madrid at the top of La Liga, who also have a game in hand. Before ending, the headlines are once again. Trump accuses US spy agencies of Nazi practices over phony Russia this year. Trump names son-in-law senior White House advisor. Obama says goodbye in last presidential speech. Jerusalem truck attacker was IS supporter, Netanyahu. Take steps against militancy, Prime Ministers ask Coast Guard. And Messi free kick magic sends Barca into cup quarters. This is all for now from Millennium Daily Newsroom. To get any kind of news, please visit to our social website facebook.com/MillenniumTVUSA and youtube.com/MillenniumTVUSA. Besides, to get the most updated news, please log into our website www.millenniumtv.net. Stay with Millennium. Allah Hafiz.